The ship's systems hummed softly, a comforting counterpoint to the oppressive silence of the void outside. I stood at the helm of the Arbiter's quest, transfixed by the sight before me. A yawning black hole loomed at the edge of the system, its event horizon rippling like a phantom tide, devouring everything in its grasp. Tendrils of light and matter spiraled toward the abyss, their radiance warped and stretched as though time itself was screaming. Captain Dax 47, my ever-diligent droid companion, chimed from his station. His photoreceptor glowed faintly in the dimly lit cabin. We are approaching the coordinates of an uncharted planetary body. Its gravitational interactions suggest a complex relationship with the black hole. I tore my gaze from the swirling singularity and focused on the navigation panel. Show me, I commanded. A holographic projection flickered to life, revealing the silhouette of a dark, foreboding planet shrouded in thick clouds of ash and smoke. Occasional bursts of light flared across its surface, volcanoes erupting like scars on its ebony skin. Scans indicate the planet's atmosphere is laden with sulfur dioxide and carbon monoxide, Dax reported. Surface temperatures fluctuate wildly due to volcanic activity. Life signs are present. I arched an eyebrow. Life? On a planet like that? Indeed, Captain, Dax confirmed. Multiple biosignatures, though their exact nature is difficult to ascertain due to interference from the volcanic activity. Additionally, there is a faint but unusual energy signature emanating from the planet's core. The prospect both thrilled and unnerved me. A world bathed in perpetual darkness, brimming with life adapted to such extremes, and harboring a mysterious energy source? It was a discovery worthy of any explorer's log. But there was something unsettling about the way the black hole's gravity caressed the planet, as if the two were bound by an ancient, malevolent bond. Take us closer, I said, my voice resolute despite the unease tightening in my chest. The ship's engines roared softly, propelling us into the planet's shadowed orbit. As we neared, the details of the surface became more apparent. Rivers of molten lava crisscrossed vast plains of jagged rock, and towering volcanic spires belched fire and ash into the choking skies. It was a landscape of chaos and desolation. Suddenly, the ship's sensors flared red, a warning tone echoing through the cabin. Gravitational anomaly detected, Dax announced, his tone urgent. A massive energy spike from the planet's surface. Something is awakening. My breath caught as the holographic display shifted. Beneath the planet's surface, an enormous mass began to stir. Its energy signature spiked wildly, a dark pulse that resonated with the black hole's distant roar. What in the galaxy? I muttered, leaning closer to the display. And then it hit me. This wasn't just another volcanic world. Something ancient and colossal lay dormant here. Something powerful enough to alter the fate of the entire planet. And my arrival had disturbed its slumber. Dax, maintain orbit and continue scans, I ordered, my voice steady but strained. Whatever is down there, we need to know what we're dealing with. Acknowledged, Captain, Dax replied, his processors whirring with activity. But I must advise caution. The energy signatures suggest a level of power that far exceeds standard planetary phenomena. As the Arbiter's quest held its position above the volatile surface, the black hole loomed in the background, an eternal predator watching over its prey. My heart pounded with a mix of fear and exhilaration. Whatever mysteries this dark planet held, I was determined to uncover them. Though I suspected it would come at a cost I wasn't yet prepared to pay. The Arbiter's quest began its descent through the dense, churning clouds of ash and smoke that enveloped the dark planet. The turbulence was immediate and relentless. The ship's stabilizers groaned as violent crosswinds buffeted the hull, and streaks of volcanic lightning crackled through the sulfuric atmosphere. Atmospheric conditions worsening, Dax reported, his photoreceptor glowing amber in warning. Structural integrity holding, but visibility is near zero. Proceeding with caution. I gripped the console tightly, my gaze fixed on the viewport, which revealed little more than swirling darkness punctuated by the occasional fiery glow of volcanic eruptions far below. A deep unease settled over me, but I pushed it aside. This planet demanded answers, and I was determined to uncover its secrets. Stay the course, Dax, I instructed. We're getting through this. But then the ship's alarm blared. A shrill, urgent sound that cut through the chaos. Proximity alert, Dax announced, his voice sharp. Multiple vessels inbound. Fast approach vector. Hostile configuration detected. I barely had time to react before the Arbiter's quest was surrounded. Through the haze I glimpsed the silhouettes of massive, crude-looking ships descending upon us. Their hulls were jagged and asymmetrical, as if forged from molten metal and rock. Dark red lights pulsed menacingly from their engines, and their weapon systems bristled with an aggressive energy. "Open a channel," I said quickly, trying to maintain control of the situation. "Let's see if they're willing to talk before shooting." Dax complied, his interface buzzing as he established communication. Moments later, a guttural booming voice filled the cabin. "Outsider," the voice growled, laced with anger and suspicion. "You dare trespass in the domain of the Ogren clans? Explain yourself or be destroyed." I swallowed hard, keeping my tone calm but firm. "This is Captain Elara Voss of the exploration vessel Arbiter's Quest. I come in peace. My intentions are purely scientific. I seek to study your planet and learn about its inhabitants." "Lies!" another voice snarled, equally as harsh and mistrusting. "No one comes here without purpose. What do you truly want?" I glanced at Dax, whose photoreceptor flickered nervously. "Captain, I must point out that their vessel formation suggests an immediate readiness to attack. Their weapons are charged." "I noticed," I muttered under my breath. Then, addressing the Ogren ships, I said, "I mean no harm, but I must warn you. My vessel is capable of defending itself. Let's not escalate this unnecessarily. If you value the safety of your people, perhaps we can talk instead." There was a tense silence, broken only by the crackling of static and the distant rumble of volcanic activity below. Finally, a new voice emerged, deeper and more commanding than the others. "This is Warlord Kragath, leader of the Ogren clans. Your presence here disturbs the sanctity of our homeworld, outsider. We have no patience for intruders, especially when the Dark One stirs." "The Dark One," I repeated, my stomach nodding at the ominous title. "If my arrival has caused offense, I apologize. But it seems something extraordinary is happening on your planet. Something that may pose a danger to you as well. Perhaps we can help each other." Kragatha's laugh was a guttural bark. "Help? From an outsider? You speak boldly, Captain, but you do not understand. This is not your fight. The Dark One is ours to deal with. It has always been so." "And yet," I countered, "my instruments detected its awakening only after I arrived in orbit. If there's even a chance my presence has triggered something, I owe it to you, and to myself, to understand what's happening." Another silence followed, heavy with tension. I could feel the eyes of the Ogren warriors boring into me through their viewports, weighing the merit of my words against their deep-rooted mistrust of outsiders. Finally, Kragath spoke again. "Very well, Captain. You will come with us to the Great Forge, where we shall decide your fate. But make no mistake, if you prove to be a threat, we will end you." "Understood," I replied, relief tempered by caution. "Lead the way." The Ogren ships repositioned, encircling the Arbiter's Quest as an escort. Their engines emitted a low guttural hum that vibrated through the hull. Dax turned to me, his voice a mixture of curiosity and concern. "Captain, this is highly irregular. These beings seem volatile. Are you certain it's wise to proceed?" "Wise? No," I admitted. "Necessary? Absolutely. If there's a way to uncover the truth and avoid a confrontation, it's worth the risk." The escort convoy began its descent toward the planet's surface. As we broke through the final layer of ash clouds, the sight before us was both awe-inspiring and foreboding. A massive volcanic plain stretched to the horizon, dominated by a colossal structure, the Great Forge. Its jagged towers jutted skyward, glowing with the molten light of the lava that coursed through its veins like blood. As the Arbiter's Quest approached the landing zone, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was descending into the heart of something far greater, and far darker, than I had anticipated. The Ogrens had named it the Dark One. I could only hope I hadn't unwittingly awakened a force too powerful for any of us to contain. The Arbiter's Quest settled onto a landing platform carved from the obsidian-like rock that dominated the volcanic plain. Around me, towering ships of the Ogren clans formed an intimidating perimeter, their jagged hulls glinting with the fiery glow of the Great Forge. As I stepped off the ramp, the heat hit me like a wall, oppressive and unrelenting. The air was thick with the sulfuric tang of the lava rivers that snaked through the landscape, feeding the forge's molten core. Ogren warriors awaited me, their massive forms draped in thick soot-stained armor. Their eyes, glowing faintly in the volcanic haze, regarded me with a mix of suspicion and restrained hostility. "Follow," one of them growled, gesturing toward the massive doors of the forge. Inside, the great forge was a marvel of brutal ancient engineering. Gigantic furnaces roared with unearthly flames, casting flickering shadows across the hall's jagged walls. In the center, a massive circular chamber awaited, ringed with raised platforms where the leaders of the Ogren clans gathered. Their ships had converged here, and so too had their most powerful warlords. Each one was distinct, their armor bearing the sigils and scars of their respective clans. At the highest platform stood Warlord Kragath, his hulking frame towering over even his fiercest kin. His armor was adorned with glowing red veins of molten metal, a testament to his command of the forge's power. He raised a massive claw, silencing the low murmurs of the assembled warriors. "Clans of Ograx," he bellowed, his voice echoing through the chamber like the roar of an eruption. "We have gathered to face the rising shadow of our past. The Dark One stirs, and with it, the fate of our world hangs in the balance." A wave of grim acknowledgement swept through the crowd. Kragath's eyes fixed on me. "This outsider has trespassed upon our world at a time of great peril. But she claims to bring knowledge and insight that may aid us in this fight. Speak, Captain Elara Voss. Why should the Ogren clans not crush you where you stand?" I stepped forward, every eye in the chamber following my movements. "Warlord Kragath, leaders of the Ogren clans," I began, my voice steady despite the tension crackling in the air. "My arrival may have been ill-timed, but my intentions are genuine. My ship detected the awakening of a powerful force beneath your planet's surface. A force I suspect you know as the Dark One." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, but Kragath raised his claw again, silencing them. "Your arrival and the Dark One's stirring are no coincidence, outsider," he growled. "Long ago our ancestors sealed away this beast, a being of endless hunger and destruction. For eons it has slumbered, kept at bay by the combined power of our clans and the Codex of Volcren. But now the seals have weakened, and the ancient texts we rely upon have become a riddle we can no longer solve." He gestured, and a pair of warriors stepped forward, carrying a massive stone tablet between them. Its surface was etched with intricate runes and symbols, their meaning lost to time. The warriors placed the tablet on a central pedestal, and Kragath fixed me with a piercing gaze. "These are the manuscripts of Volcren, written by the first Forge Masters to document the rituals that bind the Dark One. But the language has grown strange to us, its meaning obscured by centuries of change. If you are truly an explorer as you claim, then prove your worth. Translate the manuscripts, and help us reclaim the knowledge to save our world." I approached the tablet cautiously, the weight of their expectations pressing heavily on my shoulders. The runes were angular and complex, their patterns unfamiliar yet strangely evocative. Dax hovered at my side, his scanners already whirring. "Captain," he said quietly, "this script bears similarities to ancient stellar languages. It may be derived from a root dialect of the pre-collapse civilizations. Can you assist with a translation?" I asked, my mind racing with the possibilities. "I can attempt a preliminary analysis," Dax replied, "but full decryption will require more data and time." I turned to Kragath. "I'll do everything in my power to unlock these texts, but I'll need access to any other records, artifacts, or inscriptions you have that might provide context." Kragath's gaze was unyielding. "You will have what you need, outsider. But know this, failure is not an option. If the manuscripts cannot be read, the Dark One will rise, and not even the strength of all our clans will be enough to stop it." As the meeting continued, I felt the enormity of the task settle over me like a leaden weight. The fate of an entire planet, and perhaps more, rested on my ability to decipher an ancient language and uncover a forgotten ritual. And lurking beneath it all was the relentless, pulsing energy of the Dark One, growing stronger with each passing moment. The manuscripts of Volcren lay before me, a monolithic relic of a forgotten age. The jagged runes carved into its surface seemed to shimmer faintly in the ambient glow of the great forge, as if resonating with the molten rivers that coursed through the volcanic plain. Dax and I worked tirelessly, our combined efforts gradually unraveling the cryptic patterns etched by the first Forge Masters. It's becoming clearer, I said, poring over a section of symbols that seem to repeat in varying sequences. These runes aren't just a language, they're part of a complex system, possibly a formula for channeling energy. Dax's photoreceptor pulsed as he processed the data. You're correct, Captain. Cross-referencing the manuscripts with the Ogren artifacts we've cataloged suggests these runes describe a ritual involving 3 gates. Each gate is both a barrier and a conduit, designed to contain the Dark One's essence while feeding energy into the seals that bind it. I looked up at the gathered warlords, their imposing forms looming in the dim chamber. This planet's volcanic core must provide the energy for the seals. The gates are focal points, distributing that energy to keep the Dark One dormant. Kragith stepped forward, his molten red armor glinting ominously. And yet, 2 of these gates have fallen, their seals shattered. Explain, Captain, why now? Why has the Dark One begun to rise? I hesitated, choosing my words carefully. It's possible the seals have been weakening for centuries, eroded by time and the energy fluctuations of this planet's core. My arrival may have disturbed the balance further, acting as the final catalyst. The warlords exchanged tense glances, their claws gripping the hilts of their weapons. Kragitha's glare bore into me. Then your presence has hastened our doom. Perhaps, I admitted. But it's also given us the chance to act before the final gate falls. The manuscripts indicate that the last gate, the apex gate, is the most powerful. If we can fortify its seal and complete the ritual described here, we might still contain the Dark One. A low growl rumbled through the chamber as Warlord Vathrek, leader of the Stonefang clan, slammed his fist against the pedestal. And what of the gates already broken? The Dark One's power grows with each seal shattered. It will not wait for us to prepare. Vathrek is right, Kragith growled. Time is not on our side. Captain, what does the manuscript say about confronting the Dark One directly? I scanned the remaining runes, Dax assisting with projections that illuminated portions of the text in glowing overlays. There's a warning here, I said grimly. The Dark One is described as an entity of pure entropy, a being that consumes energy and matter to fuel its existence. Confronting it without restoring the seals would be catastrophic. The manuscripts emphasize that the ritual must be completed to rebind its essence. Then we must act quickly, Kragith declared. The clans will prepare their warriors and their ships. If the apex gate is our only hope, we must defend it at all costs. Another warlord, a lithe figure with ebony armor and violet eyes, stepped forward. And what of the ritual? The outsider claims she can decipher the manuscripts, but can she execute the ritual itself? I straightened, meeting her gaze. The manuscript suggests the ritual requires 3 components: the energy of the forge, the resonance of the manuscripts themselves, and a physical anchor, something to channel the combined forces into the gate. If I can analyze the forge's energy flow, I can construct a device to serve as that anchor. Kragith nodded sharply. Then you will have what you need. The clans will lend their resources and their finest forge masters. But know this, Captain. Failure is not an option. Should the apex gate fall, there will be no ritual, no containment, only annihilation. Before I could respond, the ground beneath us shuddered violently. A deep, resonant roar echoed through the chamber, sending dust and sparks raining from the walls. Warriors steadied themselves, their eyes darting toward the glowing veins of molten lava that ran through the forge. Dax's sensors flared red. Massive energy spike detected. Captain, the second gate has collapsed. Panic erupted in the chamber as warlords barked orders to their subordinates. Kragitha's voice thundered above the chaos. Silence! This is no time for fear. We march to the apex gate. He turned to me, his eyes blazing. You have your task, outsider. The clans will hold the Dark One at bay for as long as we can. Complete the ritual, or we will all burn together. I nodded, my resolve hardening despite the dread clawing at my chest. The final gate was all that stood between this world and total destruction. As the warlords rallied their forces and the great forge roared to life with the preparations for war, I knew that every second would count. The fate of the Ogren clans, and perhaps the galaxy, depended on what happened next. The great forge blazed with life as the Ogren clans prepared for what could be their final stand. Forge masters worked tirelessly to craft intricate devices, their hammers ringing out against the roaring backdrop of molten lava. Warriors sharpened their weapons, their massive frames tense with anticipation, while others chanted prayers to the ancestors whose strength they hoped to invoke. At the heart of the forge, I stood with Dax and a group of forge masters, deciphering the final steps of the manuscripts. The jagged stone tablet glowed faintly, its ancient runes seeming to resonate with the fiery energy around us. "We've made progress," Dax said, his photoreceptor flickering as he projected a schematic of the devices we were building. "By linking the forge's energy conduits to these stabilizers, we can temporarily replicate the effects of the fallen gates." "Temporary is all we need," I replied, my gaze locked on the swirling diagram. "If we can divert the planet's volcanic energy into these devices, we can re-establish the seals long enough to complete the ritual at the apex gate." Kragath approached, his towering form casting a long shadow. "Your plan is bold, Captain, but risky. If the stabilizers fail, the energy backlash could destroy the forge, and us with it." I met his gaze. "It's a risk we have to take. Without the stabilizers, the Dark One will have free rein to breach the final gate. If that happens, there won't be a forge left to save." The warlord nodded, his expression grim but resolute. "Very well. The clans will buy you the time you need. The warriors of Ograx fear no death." As the devices were loaded onto Ogren warships and transported to the sites of the broken gates, I joined the leaders of the clans in a war council. A massive holographic map of the planet hovered in the center of the chamber, showing the locations of the fallen gates and the apex gate. "The stabilizers will require precision to deploy," I explained, highlighting the unstable energy flows surrounding each site. "Once activated, they'll channel volcanic energy to reinforce the seals. But we'll need to defend them while they stabilize." Kragath slammed his clawed fist into the table. "The Dark One will not make this easy. Its power grows with every passing moment, and its forces will strike at the stabilizers. Each clan will take a site, defend it with everything they have." "And what of the apex gate?" Warlord Vathrek growled. "When the Dark One turns its full wrath on us, who will stand against it?" I took a deep breath. "I will." The manuscripts mention a direct confrontation with the Dark One's essence, a test of will. If the seals hold, the apex gate's defenses will weaken it enough for the ritual to succeed. But it will try to break me. The warlords exchanged uneasy glances, but Kragatha's booming voice silenced their doubts. "Then the outsider will not stand alone. The apex gate is the clan's last hope, and we will defend it to our final breath." The stabilizers were deployed with remarkable precision, each one glowing brightly as it siphoned the planet's molten energy into the seals. The skies above the broken gates boiled with ash and fire as swarms of shadowy creatures erupted from the cracks, their forms twisted and malevolent. The Ogren warriors met them head-on, their weapons blazing with defiance as they fought to hold the lines. Meanwhile, at the apex gate, the air vibrated with an otherworldly hum. The colossal stone structure pulsed with dark energy, its surface covered in intricate carvings that seemed to writhe and shift. I stood at the gate's base, the manuscripts in hand, as Dax calibrated the anchor device. "Captain," he said, his tone uncharacteristically tense, "the Dark One's essence is converging here. You'll need to begin the ritual soon." As if summoned by his words, the ground beneath us trembled violently. A deafening roar tore through the air, and a massive shadow began to coalesce above the gate. Its form was amorphous and ever-shifting, but its eyes, two burning orbs of malevolent light, locked onto me with chilling intensity. "Mortal!" The Dark One's voice boomed, echoing in my mind as much as in the air. "You dare to oppose me? Your efforts are futile. This world shall be consumed." I steadied myself, meeting its gaze. "This world isn't yours to take. The Ogren clans have fought for generations to keep you sealed, and they won't stop now." The shadow shifted, its form growing larger. "Their struggle is pathetic. Their flesh and stone are as nothing to me. And you are but a flicker in the void." Its words clawed at the edges of my mind, filling me with a sense of overwhelming dread. But I pushed back, focusing on the manuscripts and the runes that glowed faintly in my hands. "Maybe I'm just a flicker," I said, my voice resolute. "But I'm not alone. And together we can end this." With that, I activated the anchor device. A beam of energy shot from its core, connecting with the gate and illuminating the surrounding carvings. The Dark One roared in fury as the seal began to strengthen, its energy flaring against the stabilizers that now fortified the fallen gates. The battle raged, but as the ritual reached its crescendo, the Dark One's form began to waver. Its once mighty roar became a guttural growl, and its shadowy tendrils withdrew from the gate. "This is not the end," it hissed, its voice echoing as it was pulled back into the depths of the planet. "I will return." With a final deafening crack, the apex gate seal solidified, and the volcanic plain fell silent. The stabilizers pulsed one last time before going dark, their energy spent. The victory celebration in the Great Forge was unlike anything I had ever experienced. The Ogren warriors sang songs of triumph, their deep guttural voices echoing through the chamber. Massive feasts were prepared, and the glow of the lava river seemed to burn brighter than ever. Kragath approached me, a rare smile on his scarred face. "You have done the impossible, Captain. The Dark One is sealed once more, and the clans will honor your name for generations." "It wasn't just me," I replied, glancing at the warriors and forgemasters who had fought so valiantly. "This was your victory as much as mine." Princess Lysara presented me with a ceremonial blade forged in the Great Forge's heart. "A token of our gratitude," she said. "May it remind you of the strength and unity you helped bring to the clans." As I boarded the Arbiter's quest the next day, the volcanic plains of Ograk stretched out below, peaceful once more. The Dark One had been contained, but its warning echoed in my mind. This is not the end. As the ship ascended into the stars, I knew my journey was far from over. But for now, I carried with me the strength and resilience of the Ogren clans, a beacon of hope in the dark expanse of the galaxy. The Arbiter's quest ascended through the soot-choked skies of Ograx, the volcanic plains shrinking beneath the ship. The turbulent atmosphere gave way to the silent vastness of space, where the black hole loomed, a haunting reminder of the forces that had shaped this dark and volatile world. I allowed myself a moment of relief, watching the glowing sphere of the planet recede in the viewport. The seals were restored, the Dark One contained, and the Ogren clans united in their victory. For the first time in days I felt a flicker of hope. "Course plotted for the Tau Vortiga system," Dax reported, his tone calm but precise. "Shall I engage the hyperdrive, Captain?" I opened my mouth to respond, but a sudden, icy chill coursed through the cabin. The lights flickered, and the hum of the ship's systems faltered. Then, like a whisper crawling up my spine, a familiar voice echoed through the air. "Did you think you could escape me, mortal?" My blood ran cold. The Dark One's voice filled the ship, its malevolence palpable. The viewport darkened, as if shadows were bleeding into the glass. I stood frozen, my heart pounding as the voice continued. "You delayed the inevitable, but my hunger cannot be sated. This ship, your life, will feed me well." The controls sparked violently, and the ship lurched to the side. I grabbed the console to steady myself. "Dax, what's happening?" "External control override detected," Dax replied, his photoreceptor flashing red. "The Dark One's essence has infiltrated the ship's systems. It's redirecting us toward the black hole." The black hole's event horizon loomed larger on the viewport, a swirling vortex of obliteration. The gravitational pull grew stronger, dragging the Arbiter's quest inexorably toward its doom. I fought to regain control, frantically tapping at the console, but the ship's systems refused to respond. The engines roared, propelling us closer to the singularity. "This is where your journey ends," the Dark One hissed. "Your defiance has earned you nothing but despair." "No," I shouted, slamming my fist against the console. "I won't let you win." "Captain," Dax interjected, his tone urgent. "There may be a way to counteract the Dark One's influence. I've analyzed the manuscripts further and recalled a specific passage." "What passage?" I asked desperately, the edges of the viewport warping as the gravitational forces intensified. In the manuscripts, the first Forge Masters described the Dark One as a being of pure entropy. They noted that its power could be disrupted by resonant harmonics, an opposing frequency that destabilizes its energy. Harmonics? My mind raced. The Forge's energy pulses. Could we replicate them? "Yes," Dax replied, already accessing the ship's systems. If I can recalibrate the ship's emitters to mimic the forge's frequency, we might sever its connection. Do it! I shouted, gripping the console as another violent shudder rocked the ship. Dax worked quickly, his processors whirring. Outside, the black hole filled the viewport, its swirling maw threatening to consume us. The Dark One's voice grew louder, a cacophony of rage and malice. You cannot escape me. Submit, and your suffering will be swift. Emitters recalibrated, Dax announced. Initiating harmonic pulse now. A deep, resonant hum filled the cabin as the ship's emitters unleashed a wave of energy. The sound vibrated through the hull, growing louder and more intense. The shadows in the viewport writhed violently, and the Dark One's voice faltered. What is this? It roared, its malevolent presence flickering. The ship shuddered again, but this time it began to stabilize. The pull of the black hole lessened as the harmonic pulse intensified, pushing back against the Dark One's influence. It's working! I cried, watching as the controls flickered back to life. Pulse at maximum amplitude, Dax reported. The Dark One's connection is destabilizing. The shadows dissolved and the viewport cleared. The black hole, though still menacing, no longer loomed as an inescapable threat. The Dark One's voice faded into a guttural growl before vanishing entirely. This is not over. It hissed, its presence retreating into the void. With the controls restored, I seized the opportunity. Dax, engage hyperdrive now. The Arbiter's quest surged forward, its engines propelling us away from the black hole at breakneck speed. The swirling vortex shrank behind us, until it was nothing more than a distant, malevolent star. Silence settled over the cabin, broken only by the steady hum of the ship's systems. I slumped into the pilot's chair, my hands trembling. Dax, I said, my voice hoarse. Remind me to never ever fly near a cursed volcanic planet again. The droid's photoreceptor flickered with faint amusement. Noted, Captain. Shall I also log this as a successful countermeasure against interdimensional malevolence? I laughed weakly, relief washing over me. Sure, Dax. Log it as a win. As the Arbiter's quest streaked toward the stars, I glanced at the glowing Clysium sphere resting on the console. The Ogren clans had survived, their world saved from the brink of destruction. And though the Dark One had retreated, its ominous words lingered in my mind. The galaxy was vast, and its mysteries endless. But for now I had escaped the shadows, and lived to explore another day.